All right, this is your Algebra 2 Semester 1 review. Going to split it up into a couple different days. So if you want to try this all on your own, or if you just want to kind of knock it out in one day, whatever you feel like, go right ahead. Just again, kind of starting with simplifying expressions. Remember, we use something called the distributive property, but you have to factor in this negative. So if you have a negative 2 out front, you have to bring that out as well. So negative 2 times positive 4 is negative 8x. Negative 2 times positive 2 is negative 4. And now you got to find like terms. I have like terms here and like terms here. 10 minus 8 is 2x, and negative 4 minus 3 is negative 7. Again, using the distributive property this time twice. Remember, you have to bring this negative 3 in to distribute to both terms. 4x plus 14y minus 15x. Negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12y. Remember, you can only combine like terms. So I can only add x's and x's, y's with y's. Remember, x squared is different than x. So if you add an x squared and an x, you could not combine those two. So 4 minus 15 is negative 11x. 14 plus 12 is 26y. So to solve the equation for y, again, that's the key part. That means I need to get y by itself. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, I actually have a y in each of these terms. So I'm going to factor it out. So I'm going to pull out a y, and I'm left with 10 minus 4x equals negative 50. And because I want to solve for y, I want to get y by itself. The only thing left to do is to divide both sides by 10 minus 4x. Divide both sides by 10 minus 4x. And we probably can simplify this. So again, we're left with y equals, if I split this up, negative 50 over 10 minus 50 over 4x. Actually, this is negative 50 again. So negative 50 divided by 10 is negative 5. 50 divided by 4, let's see here, that would be 12 and a half. So I could say that this is plus 12.5x. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. So I'm just going to flip the order around because I like putting my x's first, but it doesn't really matter. Y equals 12.5x minus 5. And then if I wanted to, again, solve for the given value of x, I would take my equation and I'm going to plug in every time I see x, I'm going to plug in a negative 3. So if I do 12.5 times negative 3, negative 37.5. Minus 5. And then if I subtract that, that's going to give me negative 42.5. Y equals negative 42.5. We talked a lot about slope. Remember, the slope, if you want to think about it as the change in, well, the common way we think about it is rise over run, which you could describe as the change in y over the change in x. And one of the ways that we find that, again, we like to call slope m, but we take our y values and we subtract them, and then we take our x values and we subtract them. So however you think about slope, whether it's rise over run, change over y over change in x, or finding your y values and subtracting them, that's kind of your formula. To go along with that, we had a couple forms of lines. Slope-intercept form is a super common one, where again, we've got m, which is our slope, and b, which is our y-intercept, hence the name slope-intercept. Point slope form is really useful if you have the slope and a point. So it's kind of similar where you would take your y and subtract y1 equals m. And then this is x minus x1. So again, this is still the slope, but your point, your ordered pair, would be x1, y1. So if the problem gave you a point and a slope, you could plug those in and solve from there. You can move from point slope form into slope intercept form by, again, all you'd have to do, distribute the m and then get the y1 on the other side. Reminder about slopes, parallel slopes, they are exactly the same. So slope is the same, whereas perpendicular slopes are what we call opposite reciprocal. And so that means that if my parallel slopes, if my slope is 2, my next slope is also 2. Whereas perpendicular, if my slope is 2, my opposite, or my perpendicular slope is opposite, which means if it's positive, it's negative, and reciprocal means I flip my numerator and my denominator. So really, this is like a 2 over 1. 2 divided by 1 is 2. So my answer for the negative reciprocal is negative 1/2. So if my original slope was 2, my perpendicular slope would be negative 1/2. It is important to know the difference between parallel and perpendicular. Okay, a little bit left for this first video. Pretend we have a packaging company. Let's say that they are shipping out some boxes and they can't spend more than $50. That's going to be kind of the main point. They have 2 types of boxes. They can spend 5 cents for a small box or 10 cents for a large box. Write an equation that represents the cost for the packaging company. And I've kind of already labeled what we're going to call an X and what we're going to call a Y. So again, you got to make sure you state what your variables are for. So for every small box, it's going to cost me 5 cents. And I'm going to add that for every large box, which costs 10 cents. But I know that absolutely I cannot spend more than $50. So 0.05x plus 0.1y is less than or equal to 50. Okay, remember this inequality with the equal, or the line underneath, means it can equal 50. And our words say it can't be more than 50. If it can't be more than 50, that means it can equal 50. Last bit of review for this video. Again, your absolute value graph. We show absolute value with 2 straight lines around it. And it's going to look something like this. It's a V shape. This is our parent function. So again, if x is 0, y is 0. If x is 1, y is 1. If x is 2, y is 2. And it's going to be the same on both sides. It's kind of mirrored. So again, you can transform it. We can do, if this is our parent function, we can change it. We can add in a coefficient in front, which can vertically stretch it or shrink it, vertically stretch or shrink it. We can move it left or right by affecting inside of our, I'm just going to call it B. So again, x minus b would move it to the right, b. And then if I had x plus b, that would move to the left. It's kind of opposite. And then my last bit of transformations that I can do is I can move it up or down, which would be outside of my absolute value. So again, if it's adding, that would move it up. And if it was subtracting c, that would move it down. So again, you can kind of look at it as y equals a, x minus b plus c, where you can change a, you can change b, and you can change c in order to transform it. Vertical stretch, vertical shrink, move it left, move it right, move it up, move it down.